Earth floated quietly in the black sky, glowing blue and white. From far away, it looked peaceful, calm. But at WASN, single quotes, inside the Earth Council chamber, everything had changed. 12 humans sat around a wide table made of dark steel. Their faces were cold, tired. One of them, Counselor Don Voss, stood up and placed a sealed datapad on the center of the table. "It's done," he said. The others looked at him in silence. "Signed?" one of them asked. Don nodded. "The agreement is final. Earth is now under URL protection." A few members looked away. One of them, Counselor Rhea, whispered, "You mean ownership?" No one replied. Outside the station window, the stars shifted. A fleet of URL cruisers entered orbit. Black and silver ships shaped like arrowheads. No lights, no signals. Just silence. Don Voss sat down, pressed a button on the table, and spoke. "Broadcast the surrender order to all Terran. Military systems, effective immediately. All resistance is to cease." A red light blinked in the corner of the room. Transmission complete. Earth had just been handed over in the outer solar system. On the surface of Mars, a woman stared at a frozen screen. Captain Mara Kale, commander of the Odysseus Protocol, was speechless. Her black suit clung tightly to her lean form. Her face was covered in red Martian dust. The screen showed Earth's capital, Nova Geneva, going dark. The news stream ended in static. Her communications officer, Lynn, slowly turned. "Surrendered without a fight." Mara didn't answer right away. She clenched her jaw, staring at the last words that appeared on screen. "Order 0. All Terran forces to deactivate. The Council has negotiated peace." "Peace," she whispered. "They call that peace?" Lynn tried to speak, but Mara raised a hand. "Where's the rest of the fleet?" she asked. Lynn checked her console. 10 cruisers in deep Mars orbit. For more near Europa. But Earth Command hasn't responded to any messages in the last 4 hours. Mara exhaled sharply. Her heart was pounding. Something was wrong. It was very wrong. Then the next transmission came in. Not from Earth, but from the Irel flagship. A cold, translated voice echoed through the control deck. "Human colonies are now under Dominion rule. Resistance will result in extinction. Your existence continues only by our design." Mara's blood went cold. She looked at the crew standing around her, young, angry, loyal. "We're not under their design," she said softly. The rest of the crew waited for orders she gave them. A few hours later, deep inside Olympus Base on Mars, Mara opened the sealed chamber called Vault Econine. Dust poured out. Lights flickered. Dot inside, sealed behind triple reinforced steel, sat a giant black cube. It, Elmed Lynn, read the writing on its surface. "Property of the Terran War Division. Project Sentinel." Mara pressed her hand against the panel. The cube came alive. Its voice, slow and ancient, vibrated the room. "Sentinel AI Core reactivated. Designation, Earth's last defense. Identity confirmed, Commanding Officer Mara Kale." The crew stepped back. Mara stood her ground. "Sentinel," she said, "I need the fleet." The AI paused. "Odysseus fleet. Status deactivated. Location Mars Shadow Core. Power standby. Reason Treaty Block 3. Treaty's broken," Mara said. "Earth was sold. Billions will die. Activate the fleet." There was another pause. "Breach detected. Earth Charter no longer in effect. Requesting final confirmation." Mara stepped forward. "Confirm," she said. "Reactivate everything. Confirmed. Last fleet is waking." Far beneath the Martian crust, massive machines stirred. Deep halls of silent warships, covered in dust, began to glow. One by one. They came online. Weapons hummed. Engines ignited. Robotic maintenance arms moved like ghosts. These ships were not like Earth's old defense fleets. They were something else, built in secret during the First Galactic War, then hidden when peace was declared. Their design was illegal under current Council law. They were built not just to win a war, They were built to end them, back on Earth. Things were falling apart. The Urel Dominion wasn't waiting. They had sent thousands of drones to cities across the planet. They didn't land like guests. They came like executioners. Entire sectors went offline. Cities like Nairobi, Rio Arcadia, New Tokyo were hit by pulse storms, massive bursts of electromagnetic energy that disabled everything. Ships crashed. Power grids failed. Riots began. The council? Silent. Most members had already fled off-world. The ones who stayed died in the first strikes. On the moon, a hidden listening post caught the first glimpse of what was coming from Mars. A Xenila ping in an ancient Earth war code last used over 200 years ago. Then another, and another then. Silence. One operator, a young tech named Ari, stared at her screen. "Something's moving," she whispered. "Where?" asked her supervisor. She pointed to the outer rim there, she said. "In the asteroid belt. 12 signals. Matching old Terran dreadnought profiles." The supervisor frowned. "That's not possible. Those ships were decommissioned centuries ago." But then the ping grew stronger and clearer, a single word burning across the transmission: judgment. Back on Mars, the fleet was awake. Mara stood in the command chamber of the lead ship TNS Harbinger. The walls were dark, smooth, covered in old Earth runes of war and warning. "Status?" she asked. Lynn smiled, fully armed. "Cloaking operational. Warp nodes aligned. All ships online." Mara stared out the VIEWPORT. No Earth flags. No council symbols. Only the ancient emblem of her fleet of Phoenix rising from fire. Encircled by stars, she turned to her crew. "We were left behind, forgotten, betrayed. No one looked away, but Earth still lives," she said. "Even if it burns now," she'll step forward, "and we will make them remember." Deep in council space, far from Earth, Urel Supreme Command received its final intelligence report. It was short. "Human fleet activity detected. Mars Quadrant. Classified dreadnoughts." The Urel Admiral General read the file twice, then hissed, "Impossible. That fleet was erased." His assistant, a pale-skinned Kolari, whispered, "Perhaps not, Supreme One. Perhaps the humans were smarter than we thought." The Admiral snarled, "Then we will erase them again." But outside, in the silence of space, 12 human dreadnoughts slipped out of Mars orbit, shrouded in dark light. Their engines were quiet, their weapons charged, and one thought echoed through every crew member's mind: they betrayed Earth. Now the fleet has returned, and nothing will survive. The red horizon of Mars glowed faintly under the cold sky, hidden under Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. A chamber opened that had not seen light in 200 years. Dust fell from the walls as engines rumbled deep below. Massive hangar doors, as wide as city blocks, began to crack open. Cold fog spilled out like breath from a giant awakening. The last fleet was waking up. 12 warships, each one the size of a floating mountain. Black, angular, armed with weapons no other species had seen in over 2 centuries. At the front of it all was the TNS Harbinger, the flagship of Earth's forgotten wrath. Inside the command deck, Captain Mara Kale stood in silence. She looked. Across the control panels, lights glowed softly. Crew members in dark uniforms moved with quiet discipline. No one spoke loudly. Everyone understood the mission. "Weapons status?" Mara asked. Lieutenant Lin replied, "Railguns charged. Plasma. Torpedoes loaded. The Void Lance." "Warming up." Mara turned her head slowly. "The Void Lance is still functional." Lin nodded. "Fully operational." Mara's eyes narrowed. She remembered the old records. The Void Lance wasn't a normal weapon. Bent gravity itself turned space into a knife. It had been banned even by Earth during the final peace talks with the Council. But this wasn't a time for peace. This was a time for fire. Elsewhere on Mars. In the underground vaults of Echo Command, the AI known as Sentinel was calculating possibilities at lightning speed. Its glowing core pulsed faster as new data came. In from the outer sensors. Council fleets moving. Morel ships repositioning. Interception probability, 87%. Council will attack within 3 solar days. The voice of Sentinel echoed through the steel corridors. Mara's voice responded from the Harbinger. We're not waiting. Send the signal to the other captains, acknowledged. Operation Ashlight begins. Each of the 12 captains received their orders. Each one had once been a legend, now considered dead or forgotten by Earth's history. They had survived in cryosleep, hidden inside the ship's stasis cores. Now they woke up, eyes still adjusting to light, hands gripping old weapons. Hearts heavy with one shared memory: betrayal. The captains gathered via hologram aboard the Harbinger's war room. Mara stood at the center of the table. We were told to hide, she said. We followed orders. Kept Earth's secret fleet buried for 200 years. Now Earth is burning. Captain Varek, the oldest among them, growled. Then why are we still talking? Let's strike. Captain Nyla nodded. We start with their resource lines, cut their fuel, their power, their communication. Then we burn the Council's throne. Mara raised her hand. We do not just burn. She looked around the table. We show them who they betrayed. Above Mars, the ships rose from the cratered surface like ghosts. Silent no-comes. No lights. Just shadows moving through the stars. The Council had eyes. Probes, satellites, spies. But none of them saw what came next. The last. Fleet used an ancient form of warp technology called slip surge. It was fast, unstable, and completely outlawed. But it worked. In a flash of bent space, the ships vanished from Mars' orbit. Destination: Valthor 6. Council-controlled mining world, rich in fuel and metal critical to the Ural war machine. On Valthor 6. The miners were finishing their cycle when the sky cracked open. First came a sound, a deep thrum like thunder underwater. Then, without warning, a black streak tore through the clouds. Another. Then another. No warnings. No calls. No mercy. The TNS Harbinger exited slip surge above the planet's equator. Within seconds, its railguns fired. Bolts of tungsten shattered mining towers. Shockwaves tore through mountains. Plasma torpedoes screamed through the sky like falling suns. The defense towers tried to power up. But it was too late. The Void Lance activated space around the Harbinger, warped, twisted, and then shot forward. Single-beamed, thin, silent nearly. Invisible punched through the planet's northern command bunker. The entire structure folded in on itself like crushed paper. 30,000 Council troops vanished in less than 5 seconds. By the time the Council detected the attack, it was over. Nothing remained of Valthor 6 but Ashdot, back in Council space. In the High Command Spire on Velatrix Prime, the alarm bells screamed. A Ural overseer stared at the transmission logs in disbelief. Who did this? She hissed. The screen displayed a final image, captured by a dying drone. A Terran war emblem, painted in fire on the ground of Valthor 6. A phoenix rising from burning Earth. The same symbol banned from every Council-controlled history file. The Ural Admiral, watching the feed, leaned forward slowly. Send a priority message to all sector fleets, he said. Earth's ghost fleet is real. Back aboard the Harbinger, Mara stood at the viewing window. She stared down at the burning world below. Lynn walked up behind her. We lost no ships, Lynn said. No casualties. Council response. Delayed. They're scrambling to track us. But slip surge is too fast for their nav systems. We could hit 5 more targets before they even guess where we are. Mara didn't smile. We're not just targeting planets, she said. We're targeting fear. She turned. They thought we were finished. They thought betrayal would erase us. She took a breath. We are writing a new history. In fire. Meanwhile, on one of Jupiter's hidden moons, another part of the plan was waking. In a deep cryovault beneath the ice of Europa. A ship unlike the others powered up. It wasn't as large as the Harbinger, but it was older, sleeker, deadlier. This was TNS Wraith, Earth's prototype stealth warship capable of becoming invisible to light. sound and energy inside it. A lone figure opened her eyes, Commander Alira Voss, daughter of Dayan Voss, the very man who signed Earth's surrender. Her eyes blinked open. The AI voice in her pod whispered, "Your father betrayed Earth. Your crew waits for orders."
Ow.
She exhaled and climbed out of the pod. Alira here, Wraith Online, crossed the stars. Her ship vanished into the void. By the time the Council truly understood what was happening, 3 more key worlds were gone. Xanthal Prime Council Communications Hub erased by orbital nukes. Rime Sector Depot Fuel Station for the Council's main fleet destroyed in under 4 minutes. Velnary Archive, home of Council war records, now reduced to molten slag. Each strike came without warning, no chatter, no explanation, only silence. Then fire inside the Urel Dominion's central chamber. Fear began to take hold. Their generals argued. Their analysts failed to predict anything. The humans were no longer following patterns. "This is not revenge," one of them said. "This is punishment." But still, they didn't understand who was behind it. The humans had no leader on record. No command center. No homeworld even. They believed Earth had died. They were wrong. On the Harbinger's Bridge, Mara stood beside a black console. A map of the galaxy blinked before her. Red stars showed Council territory. Blue stars showed targets. And in the middle was Earth, still glowing. Still alive, Mara placed a hand on the map. "We're coming home," she whispered. In the golden towers of Bellatrix Prime, the Council was celebrating. Champagne glasses floated in zero gravity. Alien dignitaries in long silk robes spoke in soft voices. Music from 6 galaxies played in harmony from invisible speakers. Air smelled of victory. The war was over. They said Earth had fallen, and with it, its dangerous independence. The Council had successfully absorbed the last unregulated human sector. The Urel Dominion would now control Earth's orbit, its industries, its future. High Chancellor Arval, a 4-eyed being from the Haleth caste, raised his glass. "To peace," he said, smiling. "To peace." The others echoed, but the humans were not at peace. They were at war, far away. Beyond the Council's golden systems, the last fleet had gone dark again. After the destruction of Valthar 6 and Rime Depot, they had vanished without a trace. Council analysts assumed the attacks were rogue acts, perhaps leftover AI drones or pirate groups using human ships. They dismissed the idea of a coordinated Terran fleet. "Impossible," said one Urel general. "Earth no longer has the means," said another. The Council's security network lowered its guard. That's when the signal came. It arrived in the middle of a quiet night shift at the Orbital Sensor Dome 14 above Bellatrix Prime. A young analyst named Tessari Kell, half human, half Seelan, was watching the stars when her console blinked red dot at first. She thought it was a glitch, then it repeated. A tight beam signal, old format, Earth-based encryption, a language that hadn't been used since the first. Galactic. War Tessari frowned. She ran a translation scan. The code unraveled. It wasn't just a message, it was a warning. "We remember your betrayal. The fire you started will return to you. This galaxy will learn what happens when Earth is pushed too far." Then, at the bottom, single glyph flashed. The last Fletisari froze. She tried to contact command. The signal vanished. Every backup log file of the transmission corrupted instantly, even the AI. Backup froze for 2.3 seconds, the exact length of the message. Tessari knew this was no accident. She whispered, "They're here." Inside the Council Assembly, news of the signal caused confusion. Chancellor Arval was still sipping his drink when a nervous aide ran to him. "Sir, we received something. A broadcast from Terran space." He raised a brow. "Is it a threat?" "Not directly. More like a warning." Arval's smile widened. "From whom Earth has no fleet, no voice." We silenced it. The aide hesitated. "Sir, it was signed. The last fleet." The smile disappeared. Within the hour, emergency meeting was called. Admirals, war scholars, historians, and intelligence officers gathered in a cold, steel room deep under Bellatrix Prime. On the screen, grainy footage from destroyed outposts Valther 6, Rime Depot, and Xanthal Prime played on a loop. Each world had been destroyed with terrifying precision. No civilians had been harmed unnecessarily. Only military, industrial, political targets were hit. The pattern was clear. The method was ancient and unmistakably human. A Ural general slammed his hand on the table. We cannot allow this myth to continue. These ghosts, this last fleet, must be destroyed. But how? Asked an elder strategist. They don't follow council nav paths. They don't use known comm channels. They use ancient war technology we outlawed. They're unpredictable, whispered another, and that makes them dangerous. Arval turned to the war map. The solution is simple, he said. We crush them. But first we make an example. He tapped a red star near the edge of council territory. Europa colony? A known Mars outpost? Destroy it? All of it. Leave nothing. But Europa wasn't empty. It had been silent for years. Abandoned, the council thought. But under its icy crust, the Terran stealth ship TNS Wraith floated silently. Commander Alira Voss, daughter of the traitor Daon Voss, stood on her bridge. Watching encrypted data streams flicker in front of her, she had received the same signal that Tessari intercepted. She knew what it meant. The time had come, and so had the council's response. She turned to her weapons officer. Ready our decoys? We're going to let them find us. But why? She smiled coldly. Because they're walking into a trap. Later, a massive Euro fleet arrived over Europa.6 destroyers. 2 heavy carriers, 1 dreadnought. All fully armed, Europa's surface looked quiet, cold, empty. Their sensors showed nothing alive. The Ural commander sneered. Fire, laser blasts rained down, ice melted, ground split. Explosions rocked the terrain, but then the traps activated from under the ice. Earth's Sentinel-class gravity mines exploded outward. They didn't just destroy, they crushed. 3 destroyers folded in on themselves like paper under pressure. Then came the railguns. Wraith opened fire from below the surface. Out. Its rounds laced with old Terran AI logic smart enough to curve, track, and pierce any shield. The Ural dreadnought tried to retreat. It was too late. Wraith's fusion spike cannon fired once. The dreadnought exploded in silence. From a distance, hidden far behind Jupiter's shadow, Mara, Kale, and the rest of the last fleet watched it all unfold in real time. She didn't flinch. They fell for it, said Lynn. Mara nodded. As expected, the council's pride makes them blind. Another officer spoke up. Commander Alira reports full success. Europa remains intact. Wraith is undamaged. Mara looked out the viewport. Send a new message, she said. Lynn looked. Up to who? Mara's voice was steady. To the people of the galaxy. Moments later, across thousands of systems. Screens flickered. Council dash controlled. Comm towers. Billboards. Even holograms in transport stations, all hijacked the same. Message played everywhere. A woman in a dark command chair, wearing the Phoenix insignia, appeared. Her voice was calm, cold, controlled. This is Captain Mara Kale of the Terran Last Fleet. We did not start this war. We were betrayed. Earth was handed over like a slave, planet by its own council. Now, we take back what was stolen. Her eyes burned with quiet rage. To all council citizens, we are not your enemies, but your leaders are. They sold peace for power. Now the fire is coming home. Screen faded to black. Then, in ancient Terran war font, the last fleet has returned, back in the council chamber. Chaos broke loose. Outrage, panic, confusion. What do we do now? One senator cried. Arval stood still. This is just fear propaganda, he said, but his hands trembled. Because deep down, he knew the truth. The humans weren't just back, they were winning. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a small resistance signal blinked somewhere beneath the ruins of old Geneva. Hidden bunker received Mara's message. A teenage girl, dirty and tired, stared at the screen. She smiled. They came back. The stars above Halvek's system twinkled in silence. A peaceful region in council space. Halvex 9 was known for one thing: fuel. Its 3 moons were packed with dense chrysolite, the most valuable energy crystal in the galaxy. Nearly 30% of the council's military power came from it, but that peace was about to end, and no one on Halvex knew it. Aboard the TNS Harbinger, Mara Kale stood with arms folded, her eyes locked on the floating hologram of Halvex-9. Double quotes intel confirms, said Lin, standing nearby. Council transports arrive every 12 hours. Current estimate for heavy freighters on site to guard cruisers. 1 orbital station. Mara nodded. No civilians, only military staff. The station is 100% council-owned. Slaves and workers are off-planet. Good, she said. She turned toward the rest of her command crew. 12 officers stood at attention, each from different nations that once belonged to Earth. Men and women who had been frozen in time, awakened for one reason. 2. Make the galaxy remember Earth's fury. Mara spoke clearly. They thought they'd erased us. They thought we were too weak to fight back. But today Halvex will remember Earth. Today we strike first. The lights dimmed. Orders went out. The last fleet moved into position. In orbit above Halvex 9, the council station floated in calm. Silenced on inside, Commander Vorak, a lizard-like Marnax officer, sipped warm nutrient gel as he watched incoming resource data. Nothing seemed unusual. Status? He asked. A junior officer replied, for freighters inbound. Escort in place. Sector quiet, no threats. Yes. Vorak grunted and leaned back. The humans burned some old outposts. Let them. They won't reach this far. He didn't know. The last fleet had already arrived. 30,000 kilometers from Halvex 9. Space shimmered like water. The void rippled once. Twice, then exploded open. The TNS Revenant emerged first, its black hull absorbing all light. A dreadnought-class warship from a forgotten age. It was powered by gravity-fold cores, faster, stronger, deadlier than anything the Council had ever faced. Right behind it came the TNS Hammerfall, TNS Vengeance, and 5 other Terran warships. The Harbinger remained cloaked, watching from a distance. The attack began. Inside the Halvex station, alarms screamed. Unknown contacts. Where did they come from? Forno, 8 ships. Massive power signatures, Commander Vorak shouted. Shields up, launch fighters. But it was too late. The Revenant's railguns fired in perfect Rhythm 6 blasts in under 5 seconds. Each round was the size of a bus, coated in plasma, moving at near relativistic speed. 2 freighters exploded instantly.
Alverda.
Sky. The escort cruisers tried to turn, but the Hammerfall had already released its gravity mines. One by one, the cruisers crumpled in space, dragged inward by invisible forces until they folded like paper and vanished. Then came the Wraith class. Stealth drones, black triangles with razor-thin profiles, moving faster than any sensor could track. They slid under the station's defenses and attached silently to the hull. Each drone carried only one weapon, an old Earth tech bomb called the Echo Pulse. When they detonated, they didn't explode, they erased. The command deck, data cores, shield generator, and all communications relays were wiped out of existence in an instant, replaced by empty air and static. Vorak saw only light then. Mara watched. From the Harbinger's bridge as the final fires dimmed. Status, she asked calmly. Lin replied, Halvex station is gone. All council ships neutralized. 0 Terran casualties. Mara nodded once. Execute follow-up. Across the shattered field of debris, Terran drones moved swiftly. Painting the council wreckage with a symbol burned into galactic fear. A phoenix rising from Earth then. A brief signal was sent on an open channel. This is what happens. When Earth is betrayed, you take our peace, we take your sky. News of Halvexini's destruction hit the galaxy like a thunderclap. The Council's emergency chambers filled within hours. Dozens of species gathered in panic, confusion, and rage. "This is terrorism," one shouted. "This is war," another screamed. "They cannot have this level of power. Earth is extinct." But evidence said otherwise. Survivor drones captured images of the Revenant. Audio logs mentioned the Harbinger, and that message broadcast on Council military frequencies left no doubt. Earth was not extinct. It had been waiting in the far reaches of the Targon system. A young smuggler named Rez watched the footage of Halvex burning on his datapad. He was no soldier, just a traitor. But as he watched the Terran fleet move like lightning, crush targets with precision, and disappear without trace, he smiled. Finally, he whispered, "Someone is making the Council bleed." Back on the Harbinger, Mara stood in silence in her quarters, reviewing old files. One was a hollow recording of Earth's last days. Counselor Don Voss shaking hands with Urel leaders, while orbital strikes burned through the sky behind him. She remembered screaming. She remembered fire. She remembered loss. Lynn entered quietly. New targets confirmed. Flari Outpost and the slave colony on Tarsinade. Mara turned slowly. "Tarsin?" she asked. Lynn nodded. "They're using human children to mine chrysolite, captured during the collapse." Mara's eyes turned to steel. "Prepare Echo Unit." Meanwhile, deep in cryo chambers aboard the TNS Eclipse, 12 pods glowed green. Inside each pod was a child aged 10 to 16, rescued from Council. Labs.enhanced, change.gifted with psionic abilities, the Council had tried to weaponize, but failed to understand, the moment Earth took them back. The children chose their side, not victims. Weapons, the Echo Unit would soon see its first battle. Later that cycle, aboard the Harbinger's war room. The fleet commanders gathered around a burning red map. Tarsinade blinked in the center. Mara spoke. "First, they enslaved our young, turned them into machines. That ends tonight." Captain Varek grunted. "What about the Valari fleet guarding it?" Mara looked at the map. "They'll never see us coming." Back in Council space, the panic. Worlds were locking down. Trade lanes were shutting. Even loyalist news stations couldn't cover up the truth. Earth was back, and it was burning everything the Council once held sacred. Not out of madness, out of justice, above Halvex 9. As the fires cooled and debris floated silently, a single beacon remained. It blinked slowly. On its surface were carved for words the Council could not ignore. Never betray. Earth. AGAIN. The Council was cracking not from the outside, but from within. Ever since Halvex 9 burned, whispers moved through their golden halls like smoke silent, poisonous, growing. Planets once proud to wave the Council flag now questioned its strength. Some systems refused to pay tribute. Others pulled their fleets inward, afraid they might be next. They all asked the same question. How did Earth come back? And buried under that fear, darker truth waited. In the lower levels of the Velatrix, Intelligence Nexus, a man paced behind a sealed interrogation door. He wore sleek black armor. Silver trim marked his high rank. His face was pale, tired, and hard to read. This was Admiral Kale Rises, one of the most trusted tacticians in Council history. He stared through a one-way mirror at the prisoner strapped to the chair inside. The man inside looked human, tall, military build. Quiet, despite the cuts on his face and arms. His name, Commander Derek Soul. Once presumed dead during Earth's collapse, now very much alivened, captured during the Europa ambush. I don't understand, Council Director said beside. Rhesus. Why would this man surrender? Rhesus didn't answer. He pressed a button. The door slid open. He walked in, slowly. Derek looked up. Didn't think you'd show your face again, Rhesus. Rhesus sat across from him. I have questions. He said calmly, Derrik, laughed a dry, bitter sound. You always do. But this time, I have answers. Reese's narrowed his eyes. Why come back? Why start this war? Derek leaned forward. We didn't start it. You did. Orbit above Tarson 8, the Terran fleet waited in silence. Mara Kale stood on the Harbinger's command deck, reviewing Council troop patterns. The satellite feed showed children working in the mines, barely alive. Council guards patrolled above them in heavy mech suits, .TARs in -8. Was officially a resource prison for political criminals? Unofficially? A human labor camp? And Mara was? About to erase it? Back in the interrogation room? Reese's frowned. That's a bold claim, no, Derek said. It's truth. You and the Council didn't just betray Earth. You feared it. You signed a secret directive, Project Silence. I saw it. Your signature was on it. Rises didn't speak. DERRIK continued. Your plan was simple. Use Earth science to fuel your empire and kill anyone who could question it. You let the Yarel bomb our cities. You hid the survivors. You ran experiments on our children, and you erased the truth. Rises stayed calm, but his hands trembled. How do you know about the children? Derek's voice dropped. Because we found them. Inside the TNS Eclipse, 12 children in black and red suits stood at attention. Their eyes glowed faintly. Their minds buzzed with power. These were Earth's forgotten generation, the survivors of Project Silence. They were labeled test subjects. They called themselves Echo Unit, and now they had a mission. On Tarsonate, the first strike came like thunder. The Echo Unit dropped from orbit without ships. It's just black spheres that cut through the atmosphere like knives. When they hit the surface, they opened like flowers and the children stepped out. Council guards laughed at first until the air began to shake. One boy lifted his hand. The mech suit in front of him crushed inwards, folding into a perfect cube. Another girl screamed into a wave of pure force. Shattered an entire guard tower. The others followed. Within 10 minutes, the camp was silent. Every council weapon disabled. Every prisoner freed. Every child. Watching, back on the Harbinger, Mara received the feed. All guards neutralized, Lynn reported. No casualties. Echo Unit performed with terrifying precision. Mara exhaled. Extract the survivors. Level the base. The ground rumbled. 3. Orbital strikes turned the Council camp into dust. In Velatrix, Rises stood now, pale, quiet. I didn't know it went that far, he said. The children. Derek shook his head. Yes, you did. You signed off on the research labs on Doran Vey. You approved the Ural S gene integration trials. Rhesus looked sick. I thought it was for survival. I didn't know they were torturing them. Derek looked him in the eye. They turned Earth's children into weapons. And now, those weapons are ours. Hours later, Mara stood over a holomap of the galaxy. Dozens of Council facilities blinked in red dot echo. The unit now provided live data revealing. Every lab, every black site, every place Earth's people had been hidden, twisted. Broken Mara clenched her fists. All of it, she said. Every lab. Every ghost station. Every traitor. Burn it. In the shadows of a forgotten moon, a council warlord named Sereth. Drell received the warning too late. He had been in charge of the Doran Vey trials. He'd told his guards to break the children's minds to turn them into machines. He thought no one would ever find out. Then the signal came. It's a transmission. No visuals. Only a voice. A young girl's voice. You wanted monsters. We became them. Then his base exploded from the inside. Nothing survived. Back in the interrogation chamber, Rices sat again. He was sweating. They'll come for me, he whispered. They'll kill me. Derek looked him in the eye. They should. But I can help, Rasa said quickly. I know where they're keeping the Genesis archive. That's what the Council's really hiding. It's the reason they tried to erase Earth. Derek froze. The Genesis archive. Rhesus nodded. Earth's real gift. Your planet wasn't just rich in science and technology. It held something. Ancient. Something not even the council understood. He leaned closer. A file buried so deep, most of the council forgot it existed. A map, coordinates, DNA blueprints, pre-council origins, and a warning. Derek narrowed his eyes. What? Kind of warning? Rises said one word, extinction. Meanwhile, Mara Kale stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, reviewing the new intelligence. Rices had sent coordinates, a hidden vault in deep space. Built long before the Council, it's protected by Council assassins. Kept secret for over 200 years. The location: Zarithna Dead Zone, where sensors failed and ships disappeared. Mara didn't flinch. Plot a course. What? She said. Lynn hesitated. If it's real, it could change everything. Mara nodded, then let it. As the fleet prepared for jump, a final message came through. Not from the Council, but from an old resistance group on Earth. It was only 5 seconds, long a voice Mara hadn't heard in 20 years, her younger brother. They're watching. They know you're coming. But we're still alive. Mara blinked. She hadn't known anyone survive the Nova Geneva fire. She closed her eyes, then opened them with fire. Jump. She ordered. The fleet disappeared in 2. The dark toward Zirithnol, toward the secret, the Council. Would kill to protect, toward the truth that might tear the galaxy apart. The sky over Draven 3 was the color of bruised ash. A Council research colony. It floated in the outer rim cold, hidden, surrounded by ancient asteroid fields. Officially, it was a weather control station. Unofficially, it was a black site. One of the worst. Below its clean glass domes were labs. Cold, white, silent places where Earth's kidnapped children were tested, spliced, and broken. Genetic fusion trials, neural remapping, emotional suppression programs. They called it Project Renewal to Earth. It was a graveyard. But today, it would become something else, a message. High above. Inside the TNS Wraith, Commander Elira Voss watched her screen. We have confirmation, she said. Draven 3's operational. 77 child subjects still listed. 15 guards. 3 council scientists. She looked to her left. 12 figures stood in silence. Echo unit, children. Once no older than 6 when they were taken from Earth during the collapse. Now teenagers, raised in darkness. Trained by Terran AI, enhanced by the same technology the Council tried to erase. No longer victims' weapons, but more than that. They were angry. In the center of the unit stood Kara, age 17, hair shaved, scarred out one cheek, eyes glowing faint blue. She didn't smile. She didn't blink much. But inside a storm was building. They used to keep me in a room like the ones down there, she said. Her voice was steady, hollow. They told me Earth was dead, that my memories were lies, that my emotions were glitches. She clenched her fists. I remember my mother's voice. Her songs, I remember sunlight. She turned to Elira. Permission to burn it all. Elira nodded. Do what they trained you for. Echo unit descended like shadows. No dropsifts. Just individual orbital pods. Tiny black needles that stabbed through the sky in perfect silence. Draven 3's sensors never saw them coming. Inside Lab Wing 4. A council scientist looked up just in time to see the ceiling explode. Kara landed first. She didn't speak. She raised her hand. The glass walls shattered. Another girl, Rai, blinked. The entire hallway bent sideways. Reality warped around her as guards were thrown into steel walls. 3 seconds. 6. Zero mercy. From her command chair on the Wraith, Lyra watched the operation unfold via biodash feeds. Each member of Echo Unit was linked to her interface. She saw what they saw, felt their rage echoing through every corner of the station. But she didn't stop them. She couldn't. This wasn't just about orders. It was about justice. In one of the lower cells, a council doctor tried to flee. He was carrying a small child, a test subject barely conscious, tubes still in his neck. He turned a corner and saw a good boy standing there, thin, quiet, eyes like black holes. The boy raised a hand. The doctor screamed and vanished, literally erased. Dust in the air, the child in his arms floated gently to the ground. Unharmed, the boy whispered, "You're safe now," then turned and walked away, back on the Harbinger. Mara Kale watched from orbit. The fleet hovered nearby, silent sentinels over the operation. Lynn turned toward her. Echo unit reports all guards neutralized. Child survivors secured. Council records wiped. No resistance left. Mara didn't smile. "Broadcast their names," she said. Lynn blinked. "Names." Mara nodded. "The ones we rescued. Every name, every file, every voice they silenced. Upload it to the Galactic net." Lynn obeyed. Hours later, across the galaxy, screens began to flicker. Council, citizens, traders, miners, and even soldiers all paused as the broadcast appeared. A list of names, one by one. Children's names. Over. Each marked with a symbol, survived or deceased. Then a voice spoke. "They took our children. They broke their bodies, but Earth made them whole again now. We returned the favor." The video ended with one haunting image, a child standing in the ruins of Draven 3, holding the Terran Phoenix flag over the burning labs. Back in Bellatrix Prime, chaos erupted. Council officials scrambled to control the narrative. They blamed extremist humans, claimed fabricated footage, tried to shift blame to rogue Urel factions, but it was too late. The truth was out, and worse, the people believed it. Even among Council loyalists, doubt spread. What if it's real? What if they really took children? What if Earth didn't die, but evolved, deep underground in a private vault far from any star? A Council elder met with a shadowed figure. "They've seen too much," the elder whispered. "This generation of humans, they aren't the same. They've passed the limit." The figure leaned forward. "They are what we feared they would become." The elder shivered. "We need to activate Protocol Ashfall." The figure nodded. "Agreed. If we don't end them now, there won't be a council left." Back aboard the Wraith, Kara stood in silence. The rescued children were sleeping in med pods. Safe. She looked at her reflection in the glass wall. "I never thought I'd come back here," she whispered. Alira approached her. "You didn't come back. You came to finish it." Kara looked up. "I want to go to Zerithnull with the others." Alira raised an eyebrow. "Why?" Kira didn't hesitate. "Because I want to see what they were trying so hard to bury." On the Harbinger, the last fleet prepared for the next jump. Zerithnull waited in the Voida dead zone where comms failed, and ships were swallowed by silence. But now they had a guide. Admiral Rezes, once the Council's sharpest blade, now sat aboard the Harbinger as a prisoner. Mara entered his chamber. He stood when she did. "I know you don't trust me," he said. "I don't," she replied. "But if you're lying about the Genesis archive, I'll drop you out the airlock myself." Rezes nodded. "Understood." Later that day in the Harbinger's command deck, Mara addressed the fleet. Her voice went out to every ship, every officer, every Echo unit survivor. "They turned our children into weapons. They called it peace. But Earth never forgets, and Earth never forgives. Today we go where they never wanted us to go. Today we dig up their deepest secret. We are not just a fleet. We are a memory and a warning. This is not revenge. This is reckoning." The last fleet surged forward. 12 Terran warships entered the black mist of Exir-Null. Their lights dimmed, come silenced, but they moved with purpose, with fire and with fury, because Earth was not just fighting back. Earth was evolving. The void around Zerithnull was silent. Not the quiet of empty space, but the kind that presses on your skull, makes your skin crawl. A dead zone. A gravity sinkhole. A place where signals vanished, memories twisted, and entire fleets were swallowed by darkness. For centuries, the Council told its people that Zerithnull was unstable space. That was a lie. Now, the last fleet knew the truth, and they were flying straight into it. The TNS Harbinger led the charge. On the bridge, Mara Kale stood motionless. For her, The black mist of Zirthnol writhed like a living thing. Colors shimmered behind it, impossible blues, reds that bled into space. "It's not just a dead zone," Lynn whispered. "It's something else. Old. Watching." Behind them, the rest of the Terran fleet followed, each ship locked into tight formation, engines silent, weapons hot. Inside the Wraith, Echo units stood ready. Their minds were already buzzing. Something in the dark was calling to them, below deck. Admiral Kale Reeses stared at the growing anomaly through a side viewport. His hands trembled. He had once read the Genesis directive, the real reason Earth was betrayed. He never thought he'd return to the place where the nightmare began. Zirthnol swallowed the Terran fleet in seconds. The mist closed behind them. Sensors died. Lights flickered. Time warped. A minute passed like an hour. A day felt like a second. And then suddenly it cleared. The fleet emerged into a hollow sphere in space, perfectly spherical. Inside it was not black, but glowing like the inside of a star. And at the center was a station massive, old, not made by the Council, not made by humans, but familiar. "What is that?" Lynn breathed. Rises spoke slowly. "The archive, the real one." The station had no name, no lights, no signals, but every Terran ship's AI instantly recognized it. Match. Earth's origin technology. Authority. Unknown. Access granted. Mara stared in disbelief. "We didn't build this." Risa shook his head. "No, but someone like us did. Long before Earth became Earth." Docking clamps locked automatically. Mara. Echo. Unit. Reeses. And a dozen Terran Marines stepped onto the station. No resistance, no traps, only silence. Until the lights turned on, one by one, down a corridor lined with ancient panels, glyphs, and broken machinery. Mara ran her fingers along the metal. It pulsed under her touch, alive, inside the central chamber. A hologram activated. Not a person, not an alien, just a voice. It spoke ancient Earth, dialect older than Latin, older than Sumerian, and yet everyone understood. "Welcome, children of fire. You have returned." The hologram shifted, showing Earth, but not the Earth they knew. A different one, green, unscarred, surrounded by glowing rings, and not alone. Dozens of other planets filled. The screen all marked with the same human DNA signature. Mara stared. "This can't be real." Ressa's voice cracked. "Earth wasn't the beginning. It was one of many." The voice continued. "You were made to evolve. You were made to adapt. You were made to protect. But your creators feared you, so they locked away your truth. Until now." Then the hologram changed. A warning. Scenes of cities burning. Not Earth. Other worlds. Destroyed by a race called the Vorakai Ancient. Viral beings that consumed energy, life, memory, wiped out thousands of species, and Earth was created to stop them. "They built us as weapons," Mara whispered. "Not of war, but of defense. Guardians." Reeses nodded slowly. "And when the Council found this, they panicked. They weren't afraid of Earth's violence. They were afraid of Earth's purpose," Lynn added. "They feared Earth's rebirth, what it might unlock." The hologram showed more. A genetic sequence, a code, inside. Every human locked, hidden, waiting. And then it said, "The last fleet has arrived. The seal may now be broken." The station shook. Light filled the room. Echo unit fell to their knees, screaming not in pain, but in activation. Their eyes glowed gold. Their voices echoed with layered tones. "We hear them," Kara whispered. "The other creators, the forgotten ones. They're inside us. They're waking up." Above them, the fleet detected movement. From behind the mist, a council armada had arrived. Hundreds of ships, Vela, TRIX, dreadnoughts, Rel assassins, even biological harvesters from the Marnax species. They had followed the Terrans in. They were ready to kill them all and destroy the archive once and for all, But they were too late. Back on the station, the voice said one final thing. You have returned. Now rise. The walls cracked, energy poured from the floor. Every Echo Unit child rose into the air, surrounded by golden light. Mara raised her hand. A symbol burned into her palm. The Phoenix Tor body felt lighter, stronger. Every soldier's pulse synced across the fleet. Terran ships glowed brighter, faster, systems. Oh, Verklet. It was not technology, it was unlocking. The Council fired first. Plasma, batter lances, EMP mines. But the Terran fleet moved like wind. The Revenant dodged between attacks as if it could see the future. The Hammerfall's cannons hit 5 targets at once. Defying every law of physics, the Harbinger opened a gravity field and swallowed an entire cruiser. And in the middle of it all, Echo Unit floated above the archive. Hands glowing, they reached out as one, and the sky cracked. The Council's fleet broke apart. Ships exploded. Others simply vanished, not destroyed. Erased, the Vorakai defense system had reactivated. Human. DNA was the key. The Phoenix Protocol was. Live, and Earth was awake. From the remains of the Council's fleet, a single ship limped away. Inside, a terrified diplomat sent a final broadcast. We have made a mistake. Earth was not a threat. It was a warning. We didn't stop them. We unleashed them. In the archive's heart, Mara stood beside Echo Unit. Watching the final logs appear, Earth's creators had not vanished. They had gone into stasis, waiting for their weapons to grow, to choose to become more than survivors, to become defenders. Rises. Knelt beside her. They'll come again, he said quietly. Or worse. The Council was just a symptom. Nodded. Then we'll be ready. She turned to Kara. Transmit the message. Kara nodded. Across the galaxy, screens flickered. The Terran symbol appeared. This galaxy is under new protection. We are not conquerors. We are not invaders. We are the last line. We are Earth. And we remember everything. The skies above Velatrix Prime had never been dark. The Council's capital world always glowed thousands of floating towers. Endless orbital rings, fleets stationed in perfect formations. But now, they were burning. The last fleet had arrived, and this time, Earth wasn't knocking. It was kicking the door down. Inside the Council Grand Hall, chaos ruled. Dozens of alien leaders shouted over one another, panicked, desperate, afraid. Holograms of exploding Council worlds flickered above them. Defense grids offline. Armadas destroyed. Black sites wiped out. They still couldn't believe it. Earth was winning. No, Earth had already won. Counselor Yevon, tall and scaled with gold cybernetic eyes, slammed his fist on the table. How? How did they gain this power? An aide stammered. We ignored the archive warnings. We hid the truth. And we created the children. Another added, they've become something else. They don't fight like us. They don't even move like us. They feel everything. Then the lights in the chamber flickered. For the first time in Council history, the capital's shield grid failed above the planet. The TNS Harbinger hung in low orbit, surrounded by the entire Terran fleet. Thousands of Earth-built drones swept through the air, silent as ghosts. Mara Kale stood on the bridge, armored in. Black and silver behind her, Echo Unit stood ready, no longer children. But legends, they didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their presence was enough. Broadcast is ready, Lynn said. Mara nodded. Open the channel. Across the entire Council network, every screen, every device, every battleship and news feed all went black. Then the Terran Phoenix appeared, and Mara's voice followed. This is Admiral Mara Kale of the Earthborn Last Fleet. You've betrayed us. You stole our children. You erased our world. But Earth did not die. Earth evolved. You taught us to be monsters. Now monsters we become. Down on the surface, Council forces scrambled. Fighter squadrons launched. Railgun turrets charged, but they were already too late. The Revenant dropped its cloak and opened fire, its cannons cutting through orbital defenses like paper. Echo unit deployed from high orbit. 12 glowing streaks descending from the sky, faster than light, powered by the Phoenix Protocol itself. On the surface, Council troops opened fire. Kara walked through the flames untouched. A psychic field shimmered around her. She waved her hand, and the enemy line shattered soldiers knocked into the air like leaves in a hurricane beside her. Rai screamed once. Sand turned an entire tank battalion into dust. Another Echo child, Soren, stared at the ground, and the streets melted into magma. They didn't fight to survive. They fought to remind the galaxy that Earth remembers. Inside the Grand Hall, Counselor Yevon watched the footage in horror. "Evacuate," he screamed. "Activate the planetary failsafe." But the console was already dead. A figure stood in the doorway, all armored, quiet. Mara Kale. She walked in slowly, weapon holstered. "Don't bother," she said. "It's over." Yevon snarled. "You don't have the right to judge us. You're just a human, just a savage." Mara didn't blink. "You should have let us stay that way." She pointed to the sky, and now you'll feel what 3 billion screams sound like. From above, the Wraith released its final payload. The Memory Pulsa Terran-built broadcast bomb, created not to destroy but to reveal. It exploded above the capital in a flash of light, and suddenly, every being on the planet saw the same thing. Earth's fall. The betrayal, the kidnapped children, the experiments, the silenced voices, and the monsters the Council tried to create. Billions watched the truth, and many of them broke. Ships stopped firing. Council soldiers dropped their weapons. Some wept. Some screamed, others knelt. The lies had died, and in their place came remembrance. The war ended not with surrender, but with silence. No more orders, no more defense. The Council collapsed from within. Weeks later, Mara stood inside the rebuilt archive nexus, now fully powered, not hidden, not sealed, but open to all. She spoke one last time, this time not to enemies, but to the galaxy. Earth was never your enemy. We were your mirror, showed us fear. We became your nightmare, but now the fire's out. We will not hunt, we will not conquer, but we will defend. Every forgotten world, every lost child, every broken voice. The Council is dead. The age of silence is over. And Earth will always rise. The Phoenix flag flew across the stars. No longer a symbol of revenge, but of truth, of rebirth, of humanity's unbroken soul. From the ruins of power, new alliances formed. The Echo Children, now called the Solar Wardens, watched over unstable systems. Council worlds were freed. The lies buried beneath empires were burned. And through it all, Earth stood scarred, reborn, defiant. Not just a planet, but a promise. In the final scene, Kara stood at Earth's new moon base, looking at the stars. A younger child stood beside her. He asked quietly, "Will the bad ones come back?" Kara didn't answer at first. She looked at her glowing hand, then at the vast black between stars. Finally, she said, "Let them try." And the stars answered in silence. But this time, it was Earth's silence. A silence you never wanted to break. End of story, Sci-Fi Defenders.